Okay. All right, guys. So we're here to talk about strength and conditioning today. Stuff that you guys do every day, all the time up in class. And I want to kind of take some time to explain what we're doing, why we do it, and make sure we can kind of connect some of the dots on the things that we got going on in there. Okay, so that's the goal of today. So if we teach you something, great. If you got questions at any point in time, feel free to just ask. Okay, raise your hand, let me know, or just look real confused, and we'll take a step back, and then we'll come back forward with it. We took a lot of the real technical stuff out of it. We're not going to be doing a whole bunch of math or anything like that. We're not going to be putting up formulas for force production, work, power output, or anything like that up here. You don't have to have those kind of notes. And you'll be able to go back and look at this stuff as we post it online, get it for you guys so that you can see it outside of the class and you can rewatch it. Hopefully we can make this thing under an hour. All right. So you might have to watch it back at 1.5 speed so that you can get done with it at lunchtime. Okay. All right, let's go to the first slide. So I'll be pointing you guys to slides that we can look at. So just turn and look whenever you need to if you want to kind of follow along with me. And I'll read off here for some of the notes. So talking about strength and conditioning. So kind of what is it, right? Well, there's a lot of different people that have crazy good definitions of what strength and conditioning is. But the International University Strength and Conditioning Association defines it as strength conditioning is a specialized field within the sports, fitness, and health industries dedicated to improving physical performance, enhancing fitness, and reducing the risk of injury. Rooted in exercise science, it combines principles of physiology, biomechanics, and nutrition to develop structured training programs. These programs aim to improve attributes such as strength, power, speed, endurance, agility, and flexibility. While commonly associated with athletes striving for peak performance, strength conditioning also benefits individuals seeking to improve their general fitness and quality of life. All right, and that does define it pretty well. There's some small changes you'll see if you go to like NSCA or CrossFit. They have a little bit different definitions. They may add a couple of words here, take a couple of words away there, but for the most part, it sounds something like that. So let's kind of take a peek, right? Some of the things we said that we wanted to improve. Now you can see back on that slide for a second. All right. So strength, power, speed, endurance, agility, and flexibility, right? Those are things that we try to work on in class all the time. You see them in your workouts, okay? You see them come up as squats, as presses, as snatches, as clean and jerks, kettlebell swings, all these cool movements that you guys do in your workouts. They're trying to achieve a lot of those goals right there, something like strength, power, endurance, right? When we do our ROMWADs, okay, we sit here and take some dedicated time to stretch for 10 to 20 minutes. We're working on that flexibility aspect of it, right? We do something like a double under, okay, jumping jacks. We're working on something like, or box jumps. Maybe that's agility, okay? That makes sense a little bit. So kind of some of the categories that things fall in. Well, a lot of times what people are doing is they think of, or people are doing, but people see is that strength conditioning is for athletes. Sometimes people think that. They're like, oh, that's for this group of people that's trying to be a baseball player, a football player, a professional sports athlete. They're trying to make it to college or whatever. Strength conditioning is for them. Well, it's for everybody. Okay. It's something that we're all going to benefit from. We can all benefit from getting a little bit stronger, having a little bit better flexibility. And we take those same kind of ideas and philosophies that are put out in the strength and conditioning world and make them applicable to our daily lives. So there's like a sports application, and then there's like a real life application. We'll kind of illustrate a little bit of why we pick the movements that we pick so that we can go do the things that we want to do, because nobody in here is really trying to be a professional athlete, right? Some of us are, right? Some of us are trying to be semi-pro, cool athletes and stuff like that, be weekend warriors. But most of us are in the gym trying to improve for that 1 hour a day, to improve the other 23 hours of the day for their life. Does that make sense? Kind of on the same page? I think I've hit you guys with, I'm not trying to paint with too broad of a brush. I don't know. Is anybody trying to go to the Olympics next couple of years? Yeah. I know we have people in here that have goals for awesome professional sports stuff. Okay, so if you want to learn more about it, there's a link provided up there for the IUSCS or CA, but it's up there and you could take a look at it and stuff like that. And they got cool training programs. They got all kinds of stuff that has good training programs out there. Questions on what is strength conditioning? Comments on it? Okay, go to the next slide. So for us, we'll start out with the strength and power portion of this thing, because that's where like the meat and potatoes of our gym kind of play around, right? We do 3 days of the week are usually dedicated to a barbell, dumbbell, something that's a heavy object that we're trying to move around. All right, so when we think about strength, strength is force production. It's like our ability, our muscles' ability to move and pull and push and throw and chunk objects. Okay, that's what we think about when we think about strength, and that's how it is. It's your muscles' ability to apply force to an object. Okay, so there's a couple of main categories just to differentiate what type of exercises you might use and why we pick the ones that we pick. Okay, so you've got kind of two types of gyms, right? You've got your conventional gym full of lots of machines, all right? And so Smith machines, all the Nautilus systems that are out there, leg extensions, whatever. And then you've got kind of your free weight gym or your barbell clubs or something like that, or CrossFit gyms, and they have a lot more free weights, barbells, dumbbells, kettlebells, and stuff like that. So you can think about the exercise selection that you have as being single joint or multi-joint exercises. So if I was trying to have a single joint exercise, I've got two examples up there, the leg extension and a tricep extension, okay? So in a leg extension, you might be sitting down in a chair, all right, holding on to some handles, and then you've got your leg in a little machine, and it's gonna extend your knee. It's gonna take that joint, I won't stop clicking. It's gonna, I hope that doesn't pick that up. Might not sound good, might be a good look. You're trying to extend your leg, right? You're trying to flex your quad. You're putting force onto the machine that's gonna lift the weights up, okay? So that's one joint that's working at the same time to really focus on the quad, right? Tricep extension might be a tricep push down, okay, where I'm taking my hands here and I'm pushing them down, okay? Or maybe I'm doing a tricep extension by doing a kickback, or the French press or skull crusher where I've got my hands kind of set and I'm going back and down. So this joint is the one that's moving right there. Those are single joint exercises, all right? And they work great. They work great for developing muscle tissue, all right? The thickness of your muscle, that's it growing. And that's good because the thicker the muscle is, the bigger the muscle is, usually the more force it can apply, all right? So it's not a bad thing to have these exercises, okay? I don't want you to think I don't like, isolated movements or single joint movement exercises. I think all of them are good. I think all weightlifting is good, okay? And you got multi-joint exercises. So think of that as like presses and squats. So instead of a leg extension, we might do a back squat or a front squat or a lunge or something like that. So when we're doing that exercise and we do a squat, think of the joints that are moving now. It's my knees and my hips, right? And my ankles too. Okay, so 3 joints are moving. Hopefully no vertebrae are moving too bad. That would just add some joints to it, and that wouldn't necessarily be great, but you see that in a squat, my hips, knees, and ankles are what are moving. Does that make sense? So multi-joint exercises, all right? Something like your presses, they have your shoulder and your elbow. Your shoulder's having to be stable, and then your elbow is extending, okay? Does that make sense right there on how the difference between single joint and multi-joint exercises are? Okay, so when we try to figure out which one's better, okay, which one's better, it's more of a, well, what's better for me or what's better for you? That's how you pick the exercise that you would want to select, right? So when we think about real world application, right, we're thinking about your ability to take something and press it overhead, okay, in your real life, whether it's up to the top shelf, it's picking the kids up, all right, and we're talking about squatting, whether it's our ability to get up and down off the ground. So they have this kind of little bit of carryover. All of them will have carryover. Single joint exercises that improve your muscle growth, it's going to help you, all right? But will it help you as much as multi-joint exercises? We don't believe so. We think because you have to use your own core strength, your abs, your back, your obliques, all these muscles in the middle, all the stabilizer muscles in your hips and shoulders, to do the shoulder press or the squat or the deadlift or whatever it is, we think that's more applicable to real life because if you take something like a leg extension, you're sitting in that chair and the chair and the machine is doing a lot of the stability for you. Or if you get into a Smith machine and you're doing presses or squats in a Smith machine, and does everybody know what a Smith machine is? It's a cool rack, all right, where the barbell goes up in one motion, one path that you set, okay? And the machine does a lot of the stability for you. So you will find that you can squat more in that machine or press more in that machine. Well, why is that? Well, it's because there's not as much of a stability factor for that exercise. But in real life, you're not going to have the benefit of sitting down in a chair that's going to support your weight, all right, and have that kind of core integrity already expressed right there or supported for you. In real life, you're going to have to do that yourself, right? You're going to have to be strong enough to pick the thing up. If you're going to squat down or bend over, you're going to have to do all the stabilization for you. So that's why we picked the type of gym that we picked. Not just because it's cooler, all right, to do deadlifts, bench press, and back squats. It is cooler, all right, for sure, all right? But, well, that's an opinion, right? But that's why. So questions on single joint versus multi-joint. Does it make sense? It's not bad. I don't want you to feel like you can't go to a normal gym and do that.
We also blend, I mean, we also blend in some single joint stuff. Like I think you do a good job of sprinkling that stuff in, skull crushers and extensions, like as accessory movements.
Yeah, so with the idea in programming, so yeah, we sprinkle in stuff like that because there's really cool principles out there that more accomplished men and women than I am, and smarter boys and girls have already figured out and done this, like ways to stimulate that muscle growth. Because what you're doing when you're growing muscle is you're stimulating your muscles and giving them a reason to grow. Right? You have to achieve a certain level of stimulus or intensity to give the muscle the incentive to go ahead and utilize all those resources that it takes to grow that muscle. Because it takes a lot. It's not, your body doesn't just grow it for funsies, okay? I wish it did. It'd be a lot cooler, okay? But that's not what it does. It's trying to be as efficient as possible and adapt to its environment the best that it can. Does that make sense, guys? What you got?
Are dips single joint? Would they be considered single joint movement?
No, they're a multi-joint movement. So what's my shoulder doing right now? Is it moving? Yeah, think of the dip. I think Mike Mentzer had it best whenever he said, your dip is the squat for your upper body. I think it's the best one out there. I agree. I mean, you get your chest is going to get stretched, across your shoulder is going to be putting a lot of pressure. Your tricep is obviously going to be a big deal right there. And it might not even be the biggest mover in that one. A lot of times, depending on how the workout happened, your chest can be taken over quite a bit. And the deeper you go inside of that dip, the more chest you're going to have involved in that exercise as well. So I think the dip's probably, it's like a top 3 exercise for me. Yeah, but it's a multi-joint because it's joint. So think about it, like the joints, they don't just work as like hinges, right? Even though it looks like my knee is just kind of hinging right here, it can go to the sides and stuff like that as well, right? It has the ability to go all kind of different angles. And they have rotational forces on joints as well. So internal and external rotation could be something that we're putting in there. So that joint is moving. Versus if you're sitting in a chair for a leg extension, then your hips are not going to have to move. Okay? They're going to get to chill there. And the only thing that's going to have to happen is that knee. Does that kind of help with that one right there? Good. Anything else, guys? Yeah, I want to make sure it's clear for you, but they're not bad. And again, to back on the principles, like if you can fatigue a muscle, it's a good way to get the stimulus. If you can take an isolated exercise, so like a skull crusher or the French press, right? And we're laying back and we're sitting here and we're pressing these things up, right? We're really trying, and I've got you guys like, what I got your shoulder back on the bench. I'm really trying to have you just bend right there, right? Okay. So if we pre-fatigue you with that, do you a bunch of reps and then send you over to do push-ups or do dips, this one's already a little tired. But you can get more out of it because now it's going to call in its buddies, it's your chest and your shoulder, to help you finish out that range of motion in the dip. So then you can really do overloading is what you're trying to do right there. So you're putting a lot of stress on that muscle group by having it get tired, and then all its buddies come over and say, it's like you've been partying, all right, you're feeling great, okay? All right, and then your buddies come over, and now the party's really getting started. So you can go off the deep end in those kind of situations. You can have a really horrible hangover, all right, from something like that. You had your plan, and you were just going to coast all day, and that was going to be great. And then your buddies came over, and then now there's a lot of work getting done, right? So that would be a lot of stimulus. Maybe not the best example, okay? Might be an unhealthy example, but I think some of us may have experienced that, so it's okay. Good, perfect. I won't hang on that too much. All right, so we picked Wendler 531. There are countless different types of programs. There's, we've done it all, guys. Doing this for 14 years now. We have run every different type of program that there is out there. We've done squat every day programs. We do progressive overloading. We've done just basic periodization. So these are just different types of programs that are there to set up for a different type of goal. So it's like, squat every day is just overloading completely. But Windler is really nice for us because it does a few different things. It's really good for a beginner athlete and an advanced athlete. They can both get good benefits from that. Okay. Is it the very best top end? You're trying to be the world's strongest man or best powerlifter. It's probably not the best to accomplish that task. An individualized program, which is another type of program, would be what you would need to get to that level, that top 1%. But you're going to be a very good B student, kind of A- student in the world of strength and conditioning, running something like a Windler forever. Okay. And I mean amongst other weightlifters. I don't mean just amongst the general public. You will be insane versus the general public. Your intensity will be very, very high versus Joe off the street. Okay.
I can attest to that.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, I've done it like you said, 14 years. We've done Windler, I don't know how many times, and like that is where the strength gains came. Was when every time we cycled through that, I was able to build that, and that's somebody that started from zero.
So yeah, we like Windler 531. It fits really well into an hour-long class. It gives us progressive overloading. It has periodization built inside of it, and it gives high intensity training with our max effort set. So it kind of is a great blend for all of the things that we want to hit. So it kind of rides the middle, all right? And that's what we like for a general strength program. Questions on the Windler program?
On the squats,
Mm-hmm.
is there any way to overdo your squats? You're doing like every day, something like that?
Yeah. Overdue. So when we say something like overdue, there's kind of two principles that you might be that kind of come into play, or two schools of thought. One is overtraining, or you could think about it as under preparing, and they're just kind of two sides of the same coin. It just depends on your terminology or how you feel about the word or term overtraining. So can you overdo it? Well, as long as you can adapt to the stimulus that you're applying to the organism or body, then in theory, no, there's no overtraining. But that's not real, okay? It's in a theory, sure, it may be there, but if your goal is to get really strong and put a lot of meat on your legs, I've done squat every day programs. Oh goodness, it lasts like 12 weeks, squatting 6 days a week. And oh yeah, but it moved my back squat up from like 245 up to like 350. So it worked great for me, and it did it over like a handful of months, right? So it was good, but that's 12 weeks of me not sitting down on the toilet comfortably. And so it's like, is it worth it for us? Okay, Aber, can you get a towel, right?
Well, it's, like when I usually do my walks, like after lunch, and then I do some in the afternoons. And when I do a lap through the woods, I'll do like 20 squats, like every little lap or something like that. And usually doing about 60 squats every day doing that.
So we're going to talk a little bit more about recovery here soon. It's okay. But I think the idea that I want you guys to understand when it comes to the workouts, the building strength and building muscle, is that you're only going to get stronger or bigger if you can recover from the stress that you applied to it. So it depends on what your goals are, Randy. Remember in the beginning when we defined strength and conditioning that we talked a little bit about, or it says in there, hey, look, this might be perceived as for the superstar athlete, but the general public can benefit greatly from this. So you see that as you joined a barbell club and got into strength and conditioning and you started lifting weights, you saw the benefits because it increased your ability to walk further, to carry a heavier pack, to do the things that you like to do, which are like hiking, kayaking, and getting outdoors. Okay. So as long as the program helps you do what you want to do and you know how to modify kind of what intensity levels you want to do inside of those workouts, then it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do for you. And again, that's why we pick stuff like Windler, right? Because, and then that's also why we write it out the way we write it out and how far we space things out in here, because we want to give you time to recover, because we know, right, we're a business, we're a gym. We know that the majority of our athletes, like 80, 90% of our clients, are not worried about going to the Olympics. They're not worried about the CrossFit Games. They're not trying to break a world record in powerlifting or Olympic weightlifting. They want those other 23 hours of their life to be enhanced by the hour that they put inside of the gym. So that's just serving your clients well inside of a gym. Does that make sense a little bit? Does that help some? So can you overdo it? Certainly you can overdo it. You ever do a bad squat workout and then like you couldn't walk as far as you like in a hike? Yeah, right. Have you ever done hiking and maybe you're doing those extra squats and then, you come back to the gym on Monday and I done put up back squats and wall ball shots or something crazy like that. And you're like, oh man, my legs are already dead. So yeah, your activity had a negative effect on what happened in the gym, or what happened in the gym had a negative effect on the quality of your hike. So yes, you can definitely overdo it, but it depends on what your goals are. And if your goal is to gain a lot of muscle, then you got to kind of forego a little bit of the other stuff. If you're like, I got to get bigger, I want to put 20 more pounds of muscle on over this next year or whatever. Well, you're probably going to have to give up some of the other stuff that you might like to do so that you can recover more. You can sleep longer, right? You can eat and rest more, all right, so that you can recover from the work. Because if you don't recover from the work, you can't grow. Okay. Other lifts are the snatch and the clean and jerk. So things that they talk about were power and speed, flexibility, agility, okay? So those are expressed, power specifically is expressed in the snatch and the clean and jerk. When we pick something off the ground with a deadlift, we go pretty slow, okay? You could deadlift fast and achieve something similar, okay? Or you could pick up a trap bar off the ground and jump in the air, and you would achieve something similar, okay? But there's a sports side of it, because we get to do the snatch and the clean and jerk in the Olympics, so we could go and have fun on the weekends going and doing competitions. All right, it could be a powerlifting competition or a weightlifting competition, and we get to kind of do the sport that we want to do. Or if you're going to a CrossFit comp or something cool like that, or maybe a high rocks competition is your jam, they may have a clean and jerk or a snatch inside of those competitions. Does that make sense? So that's why we train those. Not just because we might compete, but because we want to develop power and stability overhead. Because if I can snatch a bar overhead, I can catch it in a quarter squat, half squat, or all the way down there to the ground, okay? Well, then you're not going to be able to throw much in the real world at me that I can't do. When my kids come up and my goal is just be a good, strong dad, okay? When they come up and they want to run up and have fun and play, I'm going to just yeet them up in the air, okay? And it's no big deal because I can snatch 200 pounds overhead. So it's like, you little 50-pound, I'll just chunk you, right? And what do? What do the kids do? They're, yay, flying through the air. Mom's holding her breath. She thinks they're about to die, okay? But they're having the time of their life. All right, so versus the dad that might be like, I got the thing, I got the thing. Don't do that. So again, it's about that hour in the gym, amplifying the other hours of your life. Does that make sense, guys, on the why? But it's all about power, stability overhead, and core stability in the Olympic lifts. Questions on multi-joint versus single joint? Questions on Windler versus Olympic weightlifting? What you got?
What's the 5-3-1?
Windler, Windler 5-3-1 program is the way it works is that you have your 1 rep max, then you have a training max. The training max is there to give you a conservative starting point, all right, for the next X amount of weeks that you're going to work, okay, so that you have time to grow. You have time to get stronger. You have time to recover from the workouts and do this progressive overloading. So progressive overloading is like it's like this, right? So maybe, or periodization, right? So it's like I want to go up and down and up and down and up and down, all right? Or go add a little weight, add a little weight, add a little weight, all right? So every week in the Windler program, or every week that you go through it, maybe not every literal 7 days, you're going to add some intensity to the reps, to the workout. Intensity is what drives adaptation. So intensity is the thing that's stressing your muscles out. Intensity is measured by the weight that's on the bar or the speed that you're moving the thing, okay? So what they do, and the principles it utilizes, it has 5, you guys saw this, right? 5, 5, 5 plus, okay? At 65, this would be like week 1, 75 and 85% of our training max, okay? So this is done with 5 reps. This is done with another 5 reps. This is done with as many as possible. Hopefully you get 7, 8 reps, all right, something like that, okay? Right here, we're working to failure, okay? Because we want, or what, technical failure. So that means like be smart about it, all right? Don't lift in a manner that doesn't have good technique, because that's not going to be what you want to do. That's starting to bring the risk of injury up. But that right there, that one set is where all the intensity is getting put into that one set right there. And that one set can be enough to drive the stimulus, or pump that stimulus up to drive adaptation. And then you simply recover from the work that you did. That's why you do it one time, and then it's a while before you do it again. You might do other stuff with your legs, but the idea is to never get them sore again. Like, give them days, maybe a week before you get them that sore again. All right, when you started this Wendler program on Monday, how sore have your legs been all week? Pretty doggone sore, right?
Hangover.
The hangover. Okay, I like that. Well, maybe I don't like that. But
And our training maxes are 95%.
90%. Training max equals,
90%.
that's right, it equals 90%.
Our one max.
Mm-hmm. So that starts you lower on the program to give you time to build up and progressively ramp up and And each week, and you'll see it over here. So like you see my weeks that have a 5 under it, and then you see them have a 3 under it, and then you see them have 1s under it. It's okay, we'll work this stuff up. So the intensity can go up. If I ask you to lift the heaviest weight for 5, like what's your 5 rep max, it's going to be lower than what your 1 rep max is, right? Because the intensity is relative to that. My 1 rep max is 100% of what I can do. It's the most intense thing I can lift, right? And it requires the most force against the object. The most muscles have to recruit and be active for that. That makes sense? Cool. All right, let's go to the next slide, see where we're at. Keep this party rolling. There's a conditioning side to what we do, right? Strength and conditioning. So conditioning, the definition in strength conditioning, it refers to training designed to improve cardiovascular capacity, metabolic efficiency, and muscular endurance. Purposes, all right, to train athletes to be able to maintain high levels of intensity for longer periods of time and recover from work faster. Types, aerobic and anaerobic, all right? Benefits, we increase our VO2 max, improve muscular endurance, reduce fatigue, and boost athletic performance. Some examples of types of workouts or training modalities would be circuit training, high intensity interval training, and Metcons. All right, so you guys have heard those words quite a bit in the gym, right? All right, so circuit training. You want to go to the next slide? Does it kind of, I think it describes it. No, it doesn't. Okay, I'll just shoot off the hip here. All right. I made the slide, so it's my fault if it ain't up there, okay? So circuit training, that's when we do exercises that are like one right after the other, okay? So when we had a workout, let me try to think of one that was in there this week that might not be a Metcon. But when we have something like go do, it's got some squats, right? So we're doing like 50 squats or something like that, 50 air squats, all right? And then it goes into like 40, and let's say we're going to do like an ab thing, right? So we got 40 toes to bar or something cool like that. Then it's like 30 weighted lunges, okay? And then 20 ab mat sit-ups, right? And then it's got 10, oh goodness, let's throw like clean and jerks in there or something cool like that. Well, I probably could have done a little bit different because this does bring in different modalities. But so this could be like a circuit. I'm just going from one right to the other, okay? And it could be 3 rounds of the same exercises too. So it could be like 3 rounds of air squats, toes to bar, and wall ball shots. Okay? Or you're going from one right to the next one with no rest in between it. Okay, that would be like a circuit training. Okay? And you can do it with different exercises if you want to. You don't have to always focus on your legs. But when we do legs, when we do squats, we like to give you lots of other squatting exercises for that. The accessory exercises, maybe some lunges, so working one leg at a time and working on stability. Or we just want to do a lot of reps like wall ball shots. Okay, depends on kind of what the stimulus is we're trying to achieve, which is usually to make the muscles work to near maximum intensity, right? So when we did Monday's workout, right, we rode a certain distance after squatting, and then what we have, 50 wall ball shots. And how did those wall ball shots feel? They were harder than a normal set of 50 wall ball shots, right? And then 10 pull-ups at the end of that thing. Or yesterday, we had shoulder press, okay, is our lift. Then we had you guys do some jump rope, all right? Then we had to do a dumbbell clean and press, all right? And then what was the last movement? Dips. How did those dips feel? Anybody hit the workout yesterday? Yeah. Duke, you're a strong guy, strong upper body guy. The dips feel different than a normal set of dips.
They were broke up into groups of 5.
Yeah, and normally you can probably do a lot more dips than that, right? Yeah, so we're fatiguing the muscle. We want to make it work at its highest intensity. We want to push it to failure, okay? That's what we're doing to try to stimulate the growth. Interval training. So what does that look like, guys, right? What did we do on Tuesday? We ran our max distance that we could under about 90% intensity. So we had a pace that was very high, nearly as fast as you could go, for as long as you could do it. The more advanced athlete could run further, right? The athlete that has less cardiovascular or cardiorespiratory endurance, they didn't run as far. They may still have been running fast, but they kind of petered out a little bit before the other athlete. Me and Wesley is a great example of that. Like, we're both fast guys, but he's more fit than I am. So where I was petering out at 125, he's out there at 200, you know? He's more fit than I am. He has a better his cardiovascular system is better than mine. Okay, so I got to train harder. Okay, all right. Make sense? Okay, so then what did we do afterwards? After we ran, we walked back. We took our time. We wanted to get fully recovered and then go do it again. That's the high intensity. The high intensity was the sprint. All right. Interval training. The interval gives us rest intervals between the work that we do. If I asked you to do that workout and go at 90%, and I said, okay, I want you to do this, go. And then right when you got down, and it was like I measured your speed in the distance that you went, I'm like, oh, right? You know, Randy ran at 15 miles an hour. He's crazy fast, right? That's very fast, just so you all know, all right? He runs at this many miles per hour for this long. All right, Randy gets there and he gets 150 meters down the road or whatever. And I'm like, I'm already down there at the road. I magically appear. I'm like, all right, Randy, high five. Do it again. Right? I give him no rest. Do you think he's going to be able to perform the same? No, he can't. He's tired, right? He needs some recovery before he can do it again, And you may have noticed the difference in round 1, how far you could run versus round 5, right? Does that make sense? So we want to do the interval training because we need to give your body enough time to rest and recover to be able to perform at that level of intensity again. So we can reapply this very high stimulus to your body, forcing it to try to make an adaptation. The adaptation we want to make is on the cardiorespiratory endurance side of it, the cardiovascular side, your body's ability to do that work again. And it increases our VO2 max. And the more we do it, the better we get at recovering from it. All right? So maybe if your cardio isn't very good and you do that, it might take you 5 minutes to recover from it before you could do another 90% effort for that same distance. But if your cardio is really good, right, your body's ability to recover from the work that you did is very high, then maybe you only need 2 minutes of rest. And then you could do 90% again, and 2 minutes of rest, and 90% again. And when we think about a sports application for that, think about a boxer. That's a really good example for this. They fight. In that first round, they're very, very dangerous. They're dangerous all rounds, right? But they have all the gas in the tank they want. if you've ever done jiu-jitsu or wrestled or done something like that, or football, right? So the intensity that the football player can do in the first quarter, on the first series of downs, is endless. But what happens at the fourth quarter? Now fatigue is setting in. Their ability to recover from these high intensity plays has started to diminish, and that may change the outcome of the game. In the boxing match, all right, as the fighters get tired, someone's conditioning may allow them to apply that higher level of intensity, how hard they can hit each other, right? They may, if their conditioning is higher, they can still apply that 90% intensity later on in the fight. Does that make sense? And in real life, so that's the sports application. In real life, that's you getting out there and doing yard work, whatever it is, right? You're lifting stuff, you're moving stuff, you're doing the things that you're doing. And your ability to just go sit in the shade for a couple of minutes and then get back out there and get to work versus someone else's ability, they go do 30, 40 minutes of yard work and they're done. That's the rest of the day. You know, they're on the couch and they got to take a nap. Low conditioning. Does that make sense? All right. Can you see the real world application for why we want to have some good cardiorespiratory endurance, some good conditioning? Okay, cool. Next slide. So how do we support the program? Well, we support it through diet, sleep, and hydration. These are the habits that we have, or the things that we're doing on the back end to make sure that we can recover from the work that we're doing, to make sure that we're supporting that growth of our muscle or the enhancement of our cardiorespiratory endurance systems or cardiovascular systems, excuse me. Does that make sense, guys, what we're looking for? All right, so let's go to the next slide. That's the things we're about to cover. So up here, oh goodness, I can't see it from there. All right, cool, great. It's okay. It's okay. I will guess. So up there you have, it's probably good that we can't see it because that's my InBody scan, okay? It's mine. So what we have over there is an InBody scan. Most of you have had these things done before, and we can get some good information off of those things. The thing that I think is probably two things. One, it helps us to set goals. So if our body fat or muscle mass is not at the level that we want to have it, then we identify it and we can make some adjustments, okay? So my body fat's higher than I want it to be, okay? So I can say, hey, I want to lower that down a little bit, all right? My muscle mass, it's never going to be as high as I want it to be, okay? So I'm always going to want a little more, all right? Maybe. So I can look at that number and say, hey, how much do I want to grow? And then it gives me information like my lean body mass, like how much tissue do you have on your body, Nick? Well, that number is important because it's gonna help me determine how much protein I should be taking in every day to support the muscle that I already have and maybe grow some more of it if that's what my goal is. All right, so that's why we look at stuff like an InBody scan and help it and use it as a tool to help us set our goals. Okay. All right, so they're very important to get. I get them once a month, as you can see by all those crazy dots at the bottom. And I recommend you get them. I'd say at least quarterly, so you can kind of keep track of things. But I do it once a month. Okay. Questions on an InBody scan? Comments even. Don't comment too hard on my stuff. I'm softer than you think. Okay. All right. Okay. Cool. Oop, this thing's falling down. Let's see if I can fix it. All right. So we might come back to that. All right. So diet. We define diet. Here we go. The balance of proteins, carbohydrates, and fats that support the body's ability to repair and grow muscle, provide and replenish muscle glycogen, and regulate hormones. So that's what our food is doing for us, especially when it comes to strength and conditioning. And everything we're talking about is kind of on the strength and conditioning page of things. There may be other reasons you have to change some of the foods that you eat. Maybe it's a health condition where it's like our blood work, or we're trying to get off some medications or something like that. There's different goals that we may have in our lives where nutrition may need to be adapted or adjusted to hit that goal. The one we're talking about is strength and conditioning. So we're talking about getting bigger and stronger, right, today. Or maybe we're talking about losing body fat, right? That's the composition we're talking about today. So protein's the number one that we have up there. It's number B. It says for maintenance, and muscle growth, target about 1 gram per pound of lean body mass that you have. So you need to get that body scan, because if you're an athlete that has 35% body fat on your body weight is higher than what your lean body mass is. And it's a little too high. So we might have you eating way too much protein. I say way too much protein, but it might be really hard to get that 1 per gram of pound of actual body weight versus lean body mass. Okay, then you have to start doing some guesstimations, and you can be a lot more accurate if you use something like an InBody scan. So that's for us that want to get a little bigger, or say, hey, I'm big enough, I'm happy with where I'm at, let me just maintain the muscle that I've got. If I get a little stronger, that's great, but I'm not looking to grow too much. Okay, for the athlete that's looking to lose fat, you may want to target a little higher protein intake. All right, so target 1.2 to 1.5 per pound of lean body mass. Remember, we're not talking body weight here, to help preserve the muscle mass that has already been developed. Because to lose weight, you're likely going to be putting yourself at a caloric deficit. All right, so let's just say to lose fat. All right, you're going to be putting yourself at a caloric deficit. That means if it costs me 2,500 calories a day to train and to do the stuff I do, to talk, to walk, to run around, to coach you guys every day, and to do my training to get what I want, if it's costing me about 2,500 calories a day, to be at a deficit means that I'm still going to continue to do those things that work that cost 2,500, but I'm only going to give my body like 2,300. I'm going to give it a little less than it needs. So it's going to want to go ahead and convert that body fat into another source of energy. And I also want to be making sure that I stick on the principles that we've been taught here on the quality and kinds of food to eat, because I don't want to send weird signals to my body. Okay, and what I mean by that is I don't want to at one point in time in the day take in these high processed carbohydrates and change what my metabolism is doing and change how my cells are getting in data. Right? Avery talked a lot with us about like what's going on in the cell, the mitochondria and all that cool stuff. Right? So if we take in too much insulin and Ross gets blown out of control, all right? You guys remember who Ross is? Who's Ross?
The bouncer.
Aren't you? Look at she lit up when you guys said that. Okay. Yeah. So when that signal's getting crazy, right? And we don't know how much to take in or what the cell's supposed to do next. If it's supposed to stop, is it going to be a dead cell now? Is it going to be able to reproduce all these cool things? Well, then now what's happening to our body? It might be a little bit harder to lose body fat. All right. But if what you got? Oh.
Is it possible to take in too much protein?
I mean,
is it not good?
In theory, yes, you could take in too much, but you can't do that. Okay, so in theory, yes, because we could overwork organs in our body, in theory, but you can't physically consume that much meat. Okay, you would throw up. That's what would actually, if you tried to eat the amount that is theoretically possible, or maybe the better way to say this is if you were trying to consume that much protein and your body had to do something with that much macronutrient to where it would hurt your liver, kidneys, or whatever, all right, then you would stop eating way before that ever happened. It's not like the distance off from what you consume being here and the danger zone being here is not what it is, this little distance. It's like this. The X is over there. You see what I'm saying? It's not really possible. Oh, you'd be done long time ago.
If you're consuming it all in like whey protein, I mean, of course it is possible to do that, but you're not going to go to the bathroom safely for a while if that's what you're doing. You know what I mean? If it's all in.
I don't even think you could do it with whey protein. I don't think you could take in that much. Because the absorption rate's a little bit different, and it starts to get to the geeky side of things, but I don't think there's anything about it. Now, why do you ask that question, then? I got you. All right. So
I was concerned about that years ago because me being a diabetic, I was taking protein powder and eating a bunch of meat. I'm like, well, am I going to damage my kidneys doing protein?
Right.
And so I asked my doctor, and he said, "Not worry about it."
Yeah, I wouldn't.
He said, like you said, there's no way I can overdo protein.
Yeah, it's really hard.
Yeah.
Really hard. I could see where a type 1 diabetic would be a little bit more concerned about it. I could see that. I don't have like just some off the cuff, cool, comforting answer for that or why I wouldn't be concerned about it. But it's great to have that conversation with your physician and then to have them support the idea that, hey, this isn't something you got to worry about. All right, so the reason we're thinking the protein levels need to be up because of when we're thinking about fat loss is because of that caloric deficit, we're likely to maybe lose some muscle, okay, because we're not eating enough. All right, so we got to make sure that we're trying to bias the protein a little bit more so we can try to preserve as much of that muscle tissue as possible. And when you're growing, you're typically wanting to be in a calorie surplus. So if I was the 2,500, like let's say I'm 196 pounds. So let's say I want to stay at 196, all right, and it's costing me 2,500 calories a day to do what I'm doing, okay? But I want to be 200 pounds, okay? And I want it to be a nice lean muscle, right? So I'm going to need to move from eating 2,500 to maybe 2,600. Right, 2,700, something like that. I need to give it a little more, and that's saying that I'm giving it the proper stimulus, like I'm working out hard, my intensity is very high, and I'm recovering properly. All right, so if I do all those things right, I still would need to give it enough resources to grow. The analogy I like to use is like you could have the best architect to design your home. Okay, you could have the best workers in town, the best construction workers to come over and do all the work. But if you never went to Home Depot or Lowe's to go get wood and nails, no house would ever be built. The wood and nails in this analogy are the foods that we eat. There has to be some material there. All right, something doesn't come from nothing. Okay? Examples of that are meat, poultry, fish, eggs, and dairy. So eat those things. Next one. Carbohydrates. Essential for high-intensity training as they help to replenish muscle glycogen. Examples, fruits, vegetables, and some whole grains. I know, scary. We said you can eat some whole grains. Okay? All right, so what are we thinking about there, guys? The fruits that we like to eat, the vegetables that come from our gardens, potatoes, things like that are definitely going to be starchier vegetables. And when it comes to whole grains, I don't want you to get confused and think that Coach is saying that I can go eat Lucky Charms now, because that is not what I am saying. Okay? I don't care that Frosted Mini Wheats say that it's a whole grain on the front of that box. You cannot have that crap, okay? All right, that's not what we're talking about. What I'm talking about is like a whole rolled oat that comes in that big old tube that has about 0 flavor in it. And you don't cook it for 5 minutes, you cook it for 35 minutes to soften it up. That's the grain you can maybe have, right? It's maybe some rice, maybe. Right? Depending on what your goals are. And if you're metabolically flexible, right? You guys remember that term? Yeah. Are you lean enough, and does your body work properly enough to where you can handle that stuff and not have your insulin get out of control? Okay? Not have your blood sugar just blow up. All right? Not have some kind of inflammatory response. All right? Because we've experienced hypertension in the past. All right? We don't want that. So if that's the case, we got to kind of think about, like, what's our goal? Right? What do we really want? And what price are you willing to pay for that muscle growth? Okay? Does that make sense, guys? We're tracking so far? Okay, cool. Fats, all right, we got to have those for hormone regulation. All right, they're energy source as well, but mostly in this, we're thinking about regulating hormones. Focus on consuming high-quality, unprocessed saturated fats, monounsaturated fats, and polyunsaturated fats. Okay, so some examples right there. Our saturated fats, they come from meats, right? So when I eat a steak, it's got fat in the steak, okay? That's fine version of fat. That's a saturated fat, and it's fine for me to have. Don't get scared of that. What about the butter that I'm cooking it in? And I'm sitting there basting it, and I'm doing all this, Gordon Ramsay stuff to make the steak perfect, okay? That's fine. That's totally fine. Or cheese, all right, that I want to have over that thing. All right, that's totally fine. There's the fats that are in those are going to be saturated fats predominantly. Monounsaturated fats are stuff like olive oil, avocados, nuts, and seeds. So when I think about a monounsaturated fat, that's the ones that I'm talking about. And probably the higher quality, the better. So avocados being, from the grocery store, that's going to be a good one right there. Nuts and seeds that don't have seed oils that they've been roasted in. So if I put what would the term? What's a vegetable oil, right? Yeah. But what kind of fat is that?
Oh, like it's a blend of fats, but polyunsaturated.
Okay. So it's got this processing in it, and it's got higher omega-6s, which are going to be our inflammatory fats. So we got to stay away from that. So if I have a good quality seed, almonds, pistachios, whatever, and they're roasted, but then they're roasted in these other processed seed oils, we're kind of defeating the purpose. Okay. So we got to be careful when we're selecting that stuff. But a high quality olive oil, avocados, nuts, and seeds are great examples of monounsaturated fats. And polyunsaturated fats are going to be the fats that are in fish. Okay, so the fat that is in the salmon that you're eating, that's predominantly a polyunsaturated fat. And then more nuts and seeds may have that in there as well. Does that make sense, guys? So I'm giving you some types of food to make sure that are in your plate if you're trying to grow muscle. Okay, next slide. All right, supplements that you might be thinking about taking, guys. Zinc and magnesium, these are going to be crucial for muscle contraction, protein synthesis, and sleep quality. So if we can't sleep very well, all right, we need to take some magnesium or something like that to help us sleep at night. Well, if our sleep quality is poor, our ability to recover is going to be diminished, okay? When we're thinking about getting that pump going or growing some muscle, we need our muscles to have the ability to contract, so zinc could help quite a bit with that. And improving protein synthesis, all right, that's our ability, that's our body's ability for those muscles to repair and cool things like that. All right, utilize energy. All right, sleep. All right, that's probably the king on recovery. Okay, serves as the primary period for muscle repair, hormone growth, growth hormone release, and neurological recovery. So, target 7+ hours. All right, 7 to 9 is kind of the prime recovery time. Okay, that we want to be in. Inadequate sleep elevates cortisol levels and increases injury risk. So if you're consistently getting less than 7 hours of sleep every night because of lifestyle habits, then it's going to be very hard for you to recover from the workouts that you do. Okay? Now that doesn't mean just because you got 7 hours of sleep last night, you will not have sore legs. That's not what that means. It just means that you had a longer period for your body to secrete growth hormone, to repair that muscle and make it get bigger. Does that make sense right there? You're just saying, hey, can I get more work done in a 3-hour day or a 6-hour day? I can get a lot more work done in a 6-hour day as long as I'm being productive. And your body's going to be very productive as if you gave it plenty of food. Okay? All right. Hydration. Critical for strength and conditioning, right? Directly impacting muscle function, power output, and recovery. Your muscles are about 78% water, right? Something like that. They're mostly fluid, okay? All right, optimal intake includes electrolytes, which prevents muscle cramping, aids in nutrient delivery. So the salts that are inside of the water when we have those electrolytes are actually helping nutrients get through to your muscles, okay? A lot like a car battery does. All right, and then we want to target 100 to 120 ounces a day. 120 is a gallon, so you want to get kind of like pretty close to a gallon a day. And the smaller athlete will go a little under that, and the larger athlete might go up to the 120. So there are petite athletes that might be fine on 80 or 90. All right, so like 3/4 of a gallon, okay? But for most of us, it's about a gallon a day. So with what is strength and conditioning? Do we feel like we have a better understanding of what strength and conditioning is now? And do we have any comments? You don't have to have just a question. You have a comment like what you think about it or maybe how it's impacted your life. All right, think about how we defined it, right? We want to increase your strength, your power, speed, endurance, agility, flexibility. There's other things just depending on who's giving you the definition. Coordination could be one of them, right? Our ability to do the double under. If I can do the double under, I can certainly go dance at my friend's wedding, okay? Or if I can do burpees, might be a dance move. Okay. No? You don't use that at weddings? Oh, just me, I guess. All right. Questions on strength and conditioning or comments? All right, next slide. Questions on single joint movements, multi-joint movements? What do you think is cool about them? John, what's your favorite multi-joint exercise?
Multi-joint?
Like squatting, pressing, or picking things up off the ground?
The deadlift.
Why do you like the deadlift so much?
I don't know. Just the power.
Power.
I'm
So,
pretty good at that one. When we get to the clean and jerk, I feel like.
yeah.
Or the snatch.
Well, it's funny because you say the word power, all right? And the deadlift's not really a power movement. It's okay. It's all right. I know it's like you're saying a word that means something to you. But it actually in the strength and conditioning world has a very specific definition. Okay. So the deadlift is for strength, right? It's our ability to apply force to that object to make it move up and fight gravity and mass, right? And if I use strength and speed, then I produce power. Does that make sense? So the clean is power. So I like power movements. I don't really like, I like them, but I prefer the Olympic list because I like power. Strength, because I've always been a little guy, is not my jam, right? I have to work really, really hard at it, okay? But because I've been a little guy, I'm quick, right? So I get to amplify my strength with my speed. So I get to produce a lot of power because of that, all right? So that's squatting and pressing. And we look at this, guys. You don't see deadlifts on here. I guess I should probably hit on this a little bit while we have just a couple minutes, and we'll kind of blast through the rest of it and get done. So the way I'm going to keep this up here, and we'll also have it posted up so that you guys can see it online and cool stuff like this. But this is the next 6 weeks of training, okay? And I didn't finish out the high intervals and stuff like that, the intervals in here, but it's going to repeat. It's going to look like this. I'm just going to write this in here for fun. And you would see it keep going. And maybe if we just write a couple of them up here, it'll start to show itself, okay? All right, so we'll have intervals. Our conditioning pieces will be Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's where we go for interval runs. What do we do Tuesday? Interval runs, exactly. So what do you think is coming next Tuesday? Interval rows. What do you think you're going to be doing? What do you think the workout's going to look like on Tuesday?
Really?
Okay.
Very
Very similar to the run. So you're going to row a short distance, right? But it's going to be a high intensity piece. When you start, we're going to like just rip the chain off that joker, right? Or come close to it. Keep, don't literally do that. Okay, got to keep them. All right, but hammer down on the rower. And when you feel it start to die off, you're going to stop. And it might be a workout now where we can actually measure it, right? We're going to be like, oh, when I died off, I got 28 calories. All right, can I stay consistent with that 28 calories? But you kind of got to be honest with yourself too. Because some people, what you're going to do is you're going to leaderboard it a little bit. And you're going to get 28 every time. And it's going to be perfect. And, I did great. But you just went longer, right? So it's going to be like there should be a time and a work output element. And we'll actually show you watts on the rower. So you can actually see like, oh, I'm producing 1,000 watts of power. All right, and we're gonna say, okay, when this drops to 800, you have to stop. All right, so it can be very accurate in our measurements.
How do you recover on the row?
I'm gonna lay right there. I'm probably gonna roll to over there.
No, what I meant, because when we ran, we walked back.
Yeah. So you're gonna get off the rower and you're gonna just walk around. You're just gonna chill out. You're gonna rest. You can shake your legs out, do stuff like that. The reason why we're walking back on the run is because we literally have to get back to where we're gonna go. Right?
Yeah.
So the good thing about a rower or a bike is it's stationary. Right?
I guess my point is, how do you know when to start rowing again at that max?
Good. So how long do I generally tell you guys to rest after a session?
Usually it's by minutes.
That's
2
right.
to 3 minutes.
That's right, 2 to 3 minutes. So there's ratios for it. So there's like 1 to 3 or 1 to 5 work to rest ratios. All right. So it depends on how long and how intense it is. The more intense that it is, the longer I got to give you to recover. So if I give you a 1 to 5 across like 10 rounds, that's a 45, 50-minute workout. And most of it,
probably similar to what the runs were. So.
Yeah, it took you a minute to run that far, and it took you 3 or 4 minutes. Like we only did 5 rounds, so think about it. That workout for a lot of us took somewhere between 16 and 20 minutes to get done. Okay, so if it took me to get to that, let's divide that by 5. So each round is taking, let's say, 4 minutes. Well, if it took me a minute to run that far, it took me about 3 minutes to walk back. Right, so that's 4 minutes around. 5 times 4 is 20. See what I'm saying right there?
Yeah.
So that starts to look like this. Make sense?
Yes.
Perfect. Good. That's good. I want you to understand the why you're doing this stuff, guys. I want you to be able to ask those questions and understand it so that you can be excited to go out there and do it. It will change how you look at the workouts instead of being like, I'm doing this to do it, because coach is telling me to do it. That's a thing for sure. And that's a good starting spot. But the next level of being an athlete is for you to understand the why that you're doing this. Now, once you understand the why, you'll start to be excited to go do it. You'll look at each of those rounds in the run or the row as like, that's my time to produce high intensity so that I can get the result that I want. And then we can start to kind of conceptualize the big picture and be excited to work for that 6 weeks and put in a little more effort every day at the gym. All right, instead of it being a subjective thing of like, do I feel like I got a good workout? You don't have to. Maybe you do feel it. You don't have to. You can know. You can know that you did the work. That makes sense a little bit? These are great questions. Good stuff. All right, so then we got bike. It'll be the same thing, right? These we change up a little bit. All right, we change these up a little bit. They're usually longer, right? So the work we did on Thursday had a bike in it and had, oh goodness, I forget what Thursday. Burpees, that's right. Was it toes to bar? I forget what we did after that. It was something. I don't remember. It's been a day or two. Mm-hmm. Strict pull-ups. That's right. That's what it was. Good. I'm glad. They all blend together for me. Yeah, and those rounds took most of us like 4 or 5 minutes around to get all that done. All right. Okay. So because we have Murph coming up, we do want these to be a little longer because we got a long workout coming up. All right. But once that's behind us, these will just kind of be steady state as well. All right. So up here at this, we got fives. That's going to be our 5s week. All right. It'll take us 2 weeks to get that done. And then we'll go to our 3. So squat for 3, press for 3, bench for 3. All right, that's going to be a 3, 3, 3 plus. Then we'll squat for 1, press for 1, bench for 1, and that's how we'll do the Wendler 5-through-1 program. And that's spaced out quite a bit further than the normal program, where you might do squat Monday, bench on Wednesday, and deadlift on Friday. And you may only be doing 3 of them. Sometimes you can do all 4, all right, and having a day of rest in between them. Okay. With the power movements or the squats, on weeks that you're not squatting on Wendler, so week 2, 4, and 6, we'll do squat variations of our Olympic lifts. All right, so we got squat cleans and squat snatches. We're here, bless you. We have power variations. So you have power variations on the weeks that we have squatting is Wendler, and we'll have squat variations of our Olympic lifts on the weeks that we do not. You still squat every week. Make sense? Cool. And we just progressively bring the intensity up because the reps are high over here and low over here. The intensity is higher with the lower amount of reps that we have to do. So the work gets harder. Yes, ma'am. In the Wendler 5-through-1 program, the 5s week at let's just call it my 85% of my training max. Let's say I lift 100 pounds. This is in series 1. So the first, for us, 6 weeks block. It might be 3 weeks in a normal, like we do 3 weeks on, 1 week off, 3 weeks on, 1 week off. This one's longer. It's going to be 6 weeks on, 1 week off. Okay. So now I lifted 100 pounds in series 2. The second time I go through it, the next cycle that I run, my 85%, okay, is no longer 100 pounds. It is 110 pounds. I don't even have to retest my 1 rep maxes. I'm simply going to add weight to it. Okay. And the way you know if you did this great was if I can do 5 here, that equals 500 pounds of volume. All right, 500, right? And this week, all right, it equals 550, or this series. So what series did I do more work on? Series 2. I did more work in the second time I did it. So you can lift the exact same amount of reps. All right, so if you hit 8 right here, hit 8 right here, or 9. But what you want the way you could tell if it's doing good is if I did this, if I'm doing this and I can do the same amount of reps or greater with more weight. It gets tricky the longer you go in this thing because you might get into series 8 or 6. So you've been doing this for like a long time. You've been doing it for half a year, all right? And if the equation here doesn't equal a bigger number, then it's time to stop. It's time you stop getting stronger. You have to take a step back, reassess what your maxes are, and then make another plan. Try something new for a little while. All right? And then come back to it. Does that make sense? Does the math on that make sense? So you can tell if you're doing more work just by tracking your numbers. That's why we harp so much on tracking numbers in here, guys. Okay. This will stay up for you guys so that you can always look at it and come up with a plan for how you're going to attack it. For those of you, I'm just going to give you some advice here and tips, and then I think we'll do a little more Q&A and be done with it. Okay, I won't take any more of your time. If you are an athlete, a master's athlete, this is 35 plus is considered masters. That's like everybody in the gym. Okay, there's a handful of youngins in here, so we'll just let them go crazy. Okay, but for our master's athletes, 45, 50 plus athletes, right? 35 is masters too, but hard to consider them masters, right? If your goal is muscle development and strength development, and that's your main purpose here at the gym, that's what you are really excited about right now, you have to recover. You have to rest. You have to prioritize that sleep, okay? You have to prioritize your food and your hydration. And your workouts down here, they can kind of get put into a supporting role. So you can lighten the weights on these workouts, lighten them up. Who cares? I say who cares? Movement is good. Movement, and remember, our conditioning in the definition, it does help with it, aids in recovery, okay? But we can't do so much work that we're kind of eating into our body's ability to recover from the work, right, that we put in up here on the barbell. Does that make sense? So go chill here, all right? If I'm saying run 90, I can't every day remind you that, hey, your personal goal is to grow muscle. So chill a little bit, okay? You're trying to recover. So run, but don't run at 90. Run at 75, You'll still get a lot of benefit from it, but you won't get like this kind of crazy testosterone production surge. You won't get, your cardiovascular system isn't going to greatly improve. It might just kind of stay the course, or as it dip down slowly. Where if you just completely leave it out, you will maximize your recovery probably. You will get a lot more rest, all right? But, the arc might just be, right? Your cardio might suck in 6 weeks. We might ask you to do Murph, and then you might be, so if you're excited to Murph, you got to try to find that blend, all right? But if you don't, you're like, I just got to weight lift. And then Murph comes and your buddies are already amped you up because it's Memorial Day, all right? And you're like, all right, I'm going to do Murph. That's going to be a hell of a mile if you haven't done any Tuesdays and Thursdays, all right? By the time you get to that, it's going to suck. It's probably what I'll experience, all right? Cool. All right, let's keep blasting through slides and get them out of here. Questions on conditioning. We just hit a little bit about it. Aerobic versus anaerobic. One of them is with oxygen. One of them is without oxygen. Which one of these days do you think is with oxygen and without oxygen? Ken, what you think? Which one of these days uses a lot of oxygen? Which one uses?
The first one is the one with a lot.
You think this uses a lot of oxygen. How do you feel if you sprint and you're done with that sprint? What are you doing? Right? I'm sucking air. Okay. I don't use oxygen in these workouts very much. I'm out of it. Again, I'm out of breath, but that's not the main thing that I'm trying to regulate. Like my muscles got tired, right? So as I was sprinting on Tuesday, I slowed down because my muscles just could not produce that power anymore. Yes, I was out of breath for sure. You're out of breath because your body's now gasping for air to try to supplement the fact that it is out of sugar in your legs. It ain't got nothing more it can use there. It's trying to use another energy system to help you along the way because for whatever reason you won't stop pumping your legs, right? Okay? That's what's happening there. Versus here, if we go do that 10K this morning, what's happening? They start at a slow and controlled pace, breathing. They want to use oxygen as this kind of main energy source. That's their main pathway they're working on. So ones with oxygen, that's the long, slow stuff, low intensity, high intensity, no oxygen. When we're lifting heavy weights, all right, what do we usually do? Hold our breath. Brace, right? We're not, but if I do a lot of kettlebell swings, lower intensity, I'm breathing a lot, a little lower intensity.
Whenever he was talking about lean body mass, like, I think a lot of people think about like gaining weight, like they say, I want to lose weight. You want to lose body fat. But if you're wanting to gain or maintain muscle mass, you can see that S in them is your muscle mass. And as that increases, your total body water generally increases. Because like you said, your muscle contains water. You can think of it as like balloons filling up with water. So you'll see that water content increase when you see skeletal muscle, but you're also going to see your lean body mass increase. And then the basal metabolic rate is the calories you burn at rest. That will increase as your muscle mass increases. So you're increasing your metabolism the more muscle that you gain, which is a good thing. And then as you can lose body fat, and that metabolism stays the same, like, or increases depending on if you gain muscle or not. So you want to see that muscle mass grow or stay the same because that means you're burning so many calories just at rest. And that increases your ability to burn body fat. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's kind of goes into the why.
Mm-hmm.
Why you want to make sure you're getting enough protein. You want to support that lean body mass and continue to grow muscle so you continue to burn fat.
And she's kind of talking specifically there on the goal of losing body fat.
Right.
So we kind of had two goals, right? Grow muscle or lose fat. Can you do them both at the same time? Yes, for sure. Just a little harder. Just a little harder. It's more complicated. It's more complicated because now we have a balance between the caloric surplus or caloric deficit. We're actually trying to stay at the amount of calories that we are typically using, maybe a very slight lower intake level of calories, right? It's just hard because if you dip down too far and use too much work, then you're going to eat up some of your muscle.
It's a dance for sure.
It's
Some
tough.
of you I've worked with, like we've looked at these scans and you've looked at your performance, nutrition. It is a dance to kind of find that sweet spot where you're able to build muscle and burn body fat at the same time.
And why do you think that is? It's because throughout the day, we exert a variable amount of energy. It changes every day. You don't take the exact same 10,000 steps every day. It changes. The stress on your body changes. Your neurological responses change. So a busy day at work, not even just physically more busy, but mentally more exhausting and stressful, is still costing you more calories. Does that make sense?
Every workout is different, and every list of meals that you eat every day is different. And that's why you see like people like maybe bodybuilders or physique competitors, they tend to eat the same thing every single day because they're going in and doing this amount of work, which is similar every single day, and they're eating the same foods because it's very predictable. They get predictable results.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas ours has a lot more variance because we want life to be a little bit more fun and exciting.
Or just different.
Just different.
Fun and exciting is subjective, okay? I can eat chicken rice every day.
So that's what I wrestle with. I watch a lot of YouTube and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm getting out of it, as far as this visceral fat here,
Mm-hmm.
which ain't a whole lot on me, but this little bit is still dangerous for your
Sure.
heart and stuff and all.
Okay.
And I mean, it's just not much coming off all that I do.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, keep here, and you got to have a calorie deficit.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you do that, then that's going to take away your muscles and make you weaker if you go with a calorie deficit. So what you're saying is you got to up your protein intake to accommodate for the calorie deficit. It's like,
Okay, so here's,
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
and look, you guys, if I know we're over the 10
Yeah.
10 a.m. thing, so if you have to go. But if you want to,
for another day.
It's fine. No, I'll stick with it. And if you got questions, we'll answer them. Okay. All right. So if I'm doing, we're just going to throw really simple numbers out here. All right. 100 on protein. Oh, goodness gracious. Just maybe for easy numbers. This is not anything. Okay. All right. Do not take this as anything. I'm just using a big round number. Okay. And I want to be at a caloric deficit of 10%. Right. So sans 10%. Okay. So now I'm consuming just whatever increment this number is. It's now 90. Okay. What we're saying here is that now we're at a deficit. Okay. What we may try to do to help minimize the amount of damage potentially is to not do this one at 90, keep it at 100. That's all we're saying. Okay? In hopes that we can minimize the muscle loss that we're going to potentially get. Does that kind of make sense a little bit? Because your goal is, and you have to make this decision. For you, you've got this little bit of visceral fat. So you're thinking, I want it to go away, okay? And yeah, you're attached to your muscle that you've built over these years. You love it, and it lets you do a lot of cool stuff. You're the one that has to make the decision. Am I willing to compromise some of my muscle to get this last little bit of body fat off? Because that may be a side effect of my caloric deficit. And then you want to talk, so talking to your coaches is great because how long might I stay in this deficit? Right? It's not forever. Because if it's staying there for too long, then you're going to have a problem with your metabolism. So you see people cycle on and off of deficits, or they get back to like a cut phase and then a maintenance phase and a growth phase. Then what we're saying there is how much do I consume and what kind of exercises do I do? So that's where a program is individualized, okay? In an individualized program, so we have the periodization stuff, all right? We have progressive overloading, okay? There's all these types of programs that are out there. And yours, the best one for every individual person is an individualized program, okay? The best meal plan for every person is an individualized meal plan, okay? Because I can't just say, oh, dude, it's the protein's going to be chicken, all right? The carbs are going to be, we're just going to say rice and apples. And the fat's going to be peanuts. All right, because what could happen here? What on there everyone knows someone could potentially have that would stop them from eating that diet just like that? Peanut allergy. I cannot have just say, oh, this works for everybody. You may be allergic to peanuts. That's just an easy example of why there's a plan has to be individualized for it to be perfect, right?
I might be a type 2 diabetic and I can't have rice and apples.
That's right.
And two, you have to remember that visceral fat, or any fat, it's stored energy. So whenever you're at that deficit, in particularly carbohydrates, those are the things that are going to end up being potential stored energy. So that's the first place you want to cut away from. And it's about being able to do the work that you want to do with kind of a little excess as possible. Because for all of us, we're relying on that quick glucose to give us the fast energy we need to do the work.
Oh shit.
So you're going to be, once you consume, once you use all the readily available glucose, then your body starts to use that visceral fat as fuel. And that's where kind of your long walks, the low intensity stuff, that's where you start to kind of eat into that and burn that off, at a faster pace. But it takes a lot of it, and it takes a while.
Right.
What was your question, Robert?
I was just gonna, so in that example, with that goal in mind, if you leave the protein at 100, do you still drop both the carbs and fats to 90, or would you drop one of those to 80?
Okay.
Since you're keeping the protein.
This is where just writing 100 up there is not good. All right, because that's not real. So what we're trying to achieve.
I mean, it doesn't have to be whatever the number is.
Right.
If you leave the protein, but you still want a caloric deficit, if you don't drop the proteins, you should drop on the others more
Yes.
to achieve the same effect, or you still leave the others at 90% of whatever it was.
Okay. So if our caloric intake, daily caloric intake is 2,500 calories, okay? So we're saying that athlete trains, works, it's generally the same thing, okay? And generally they expend 2,500 calories, or they consume 2,500 calories, and they're not gaining any muscle or losing any fat, right? And they're staying about the same, okay? To gain the muscle, you have to have the stimulus, okay? That's a big piece of it. If you do not have high intensity training, lifting heavy weights, getting stronger, you're not likely to gain very much muscle, okay? If any at all. And you could still lose it, okay? Because the stimulus would not be there. For the fat loss is the caloric deficit part of that. All right, we have to try to get our body to use any of the storages it already has, okay? So we could either eat the same and expend more energy, add in walks after every meals that maybe cost us 100 calories every walk, okay? Add in an extra workout as long as we can recover from it, right? It's usually going to be lower intensity because it's easier to recover from those. So our choices when it's looking to lose fat or to use more calories throughout the day or consume less calories throughout the day, okay? So and what we're saying with the maybe keep this the same is that, hey, we still have to have a certain amount of protein to do muscle repair in protein synthesis. So we want to try to put ourselves in the best position possible so that we lose the least amount possible. So that's what we're saying there. So I think I've got your question with, hey, what should I cut out? Okay.
Well, or should I eat at all to keep that? Because if you leave that at 90, that's less of a caloric deficit than it would have been if they were all at 90%.
I think I'm getting this right, but help me out a little bit here. So I thought you were.
So the goal in that example was to gain.
The goal in this is to lose body fat and to minimize the amount of muscle that we lose.
And that's why you get the protein
at 100. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so with that in mind, do I need to? Should I
drop the carbs to 80?
Should I drop the carbs to 80?
To balance it out.
Okay, so this is still 300, right? If 300, right? And this is versus this line right here, which is 280. I kept the protein the same on this one. So this would be like.
Right. Yeah, but it would have been 270. That's what I'm saying. So it's not quite as much of a flow.
So this is exactly. But I am.
At 90, it wouldn't have been.
So, yeah.
But I am at a caloric deficit. I was.
Not as much.
This is 270 and this is 280.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was here. I wanted to lose fat. Okay. So I'm putting myself at a caloric deficit. Now I'm at 270, certainly a caloric deficit. And if I wanted to, and I didn't care how much muscle I lost, I might stay there. All right. And this one's 280. I'm just putting myself at less of a caloric deficit than the other one. But both of them are a caloric deficit. So I will lose body fat on either one of them.
So I guess my question is, would it be detrimental to cut out a little more carbs as far as losing body fat?
Sure. Yeah, I can cut out all kind of stuff. Yeah. Can I go to 85 here? Right? Is that fine? Or can I go to whatever there? Right? Yeah, I can cut out more. I can cut out as much as I want. And the more you cut.
My question is, if you start cutting the carbs down, because you're keeping the proteins the same, is that going to have a negative
Yes. Right. It will. Because you need that glycogen to produce the intensity inside of the workout.
Okay, well, that answers my question.
Yeah, you have to have it in there. So again, it kind of goes into how fast do I want it to come off, and what am I willing to lose? Because it's not that your body can't learn to function at a high level off of your body fat. It's just harder to do. All right. And you're not going to have the same glycogen production and replacement. So to do more work after the workout, you will probably feel like it's harder to do. Okay. That's what you will probably experience. All right. But yes, you can cut more if you want to. And then if your quality of life, so if I cut more carbs and more fat, I will lose body fat faster. Okay. But it may be at the cost of other things. It could be at the cost of my joint health. It could be at the cost of my energy levels. It could be at the cost of my sleep. And as long as I'm willing to pay that price, it may be worth it for me. All right. But that's just it. It's hard to know if it's going to be worth that price till you start walking down that road and then you start feeling like crap. Right. Okay. Did we hit that? That's a great question. Okay, cool. Cool. I don't know if I want to erase it. Yeah. So it's a small chain amino acid. Do I hit collagen in there?
didn't talk about collagen and creatine. You, I think you missed.
Did I miss a slide? Did I not put it in the
It
slide?
was up there.
It was up there, it just didn't really.
Okay, my bad. Collagen and creatine important for joint health and improved performance. So, yeah, collagen consumption is going to be the one that's a little bit more associated with joint health and cognitive function. So having a daily intake of collagen can be a great supplement to have, especially when you're in a strength and conditioning phase. It can be a good supplement to take in. Creatine, that's going to have more to do with the performance side of your strength and conditioning routine. So plenty of cool studies about force production and muscle growth with the consumption of creatine out there. So I would definitely, when I'm thinking about what do I recommend for people when they're looking for supplements in a strength and conditioning phase, then these are the kind of the four that I would say they're usually going to be the ones to take, and they're usually the ones we sell because that's the ones that people need. You can take your creatine anytime during the day. Sometimes creatine is added to pre-workouts because they know they're marketing something to you, and they're like, oh, here's the caffeine, the niacin, the leucine, all these things that are going to be associated with promoting blood flow, opening up your blood vessels. It's just going to help you have a bigger, fuller muscle. And the more I can do that, usually I can get a few more reps out of stuff like with creatine and all this stuff, and like promoting more muscle or more blood flow, because it's going to increase the surface area of the muscle, and the increase of the surface area of the muscle is typically going to give you more output. More surface area on the muscle and the thickness of the muscle tissue has a direct response to how many reps and how much work you can actually do. So as they make the muscle bigger, then because they're opening up these capillaries and these blood vessels, then you're going to get more reps out of it. And that means you can apply more stress to the organism, and that means it has a higher stimulus, so then it can respond differently. That makes sense? So it's a higher response because you got 1 or 2 extra reps because you were taking creatine. But it's just going to give you like 1 or 2. Yeah. All right? But hey, that's 1 or 2 more. All right? And that's a good thing because that's more stress. And so long as you can recover from that stress, that's where you're going to grow. You know? Yeah, they're definitely important to have, guys, and that's why we kind of harp on the inflammatory fats, is because like when you're doing heavy weightlifting and joints, if you're over 40, over 50, my goodness, it's painful. It can be painful. So we really, really think that it's important for you guys to make sure the inflammatory fats are zip or none. Okay.
Sugar too. That'll you can definitely feel that. Like if you've had pizza or sweets, and then you go like on Sunday night, and then Monday you go and do back squats. Like
it's tighter.
You can feel it.
It's harder, for sure. All right. Good. So kind of the why behind it.
Yeah,
So when we see Avery work out, so she's had the benefit of all these years being able to go to the kitchen table with me, and as I've learned whatever from strength and conditioning, and then I want to talk about it. And she was a new athlete coming into it. She had all these questions about the why. So it gave me opportunities to explain the why to her. And then I see her work out all the time, right? And so I can kind of give her feedback more constantly than I can give other people feedback because you guys don't live with me, right? So when she comes in, she's a really good example of what you can do because she was not an athlete and then turned into an athlete. And what she does in her workouts and the intent behind it is completely different than a lot of you guys in here. Okay, I'm not trying to pick on anybody, but give you an example. Avery comes into the gym. It's not just Avery's. Our highest performers all do this stuff. They have these same kind of habits. They already know how much to lift. They already took it the night before or like the hour before they're in the gym, and they've already looked at Wodify. They said, oh, here's the percentages. Here's what I got to do. They got in. They do the default rotationals. They do their prehab, rehab stuff. They're here 30 minutes early doing very specific things that they've learned because they learned the why behind their doing it. They're like, oh, I'm doing shoulder mobility so I can get into better positions so I can lift more weight and be pain-free. These are my whys, okay? I'm lifting this much weight because my goal is to beat my friend in the workout, so I need to know how much to do. It's also why we ask our friends, what'd you get on the workout today? All right, how fast did you go? How many reps did you get? Because in our head, we're like, I want to be better than you, okay? That's not bad. That's a good team.
Human nature.
Yeah, it's human nature.
So like Friday, I'm missing Friday.
This next Friday,
This coming
you're missing
Friday.
squat snatches.
So what should you do if you do miss a day like that? Should you make it up or should you just?
So we have open bay on Saturdays for you guys to make that up, right? So you're going to miss Friday and Saturday is what you're telling me. Okay. All right, cool. So what do you do? Okay, well, what is your goals? Determine what you're going to do, John. And I'm
come in like Monday, do the one workout you missed.
Okay. So could we go and then squat snatch on the same day we're squatting? We could. We can. If we can recover from the work that we're going to do. Okay? So yes, you could come in and do 2 sessions on Monday. Yeah, of course you can. You can do whatever you want to do. And then then you go in to ask me, is it ideal? All right?
Probably not.
Probably not. Right? Because it depends on because you're a 60-year-old athlete, right? So which one of these is more important to you? Right? Probably back squats, right? No?
Yeah.
So if it's muscle growth that's the most important to you, then do the squats. If it's power production that's the most important to you, do the squat snatches.
I see. All right.
You don't have to know that so much. All right? That's a good question to ask a coach. And then we're going to be like, hey, what's your goals?
Right.
Right? What do you want?
I got you.
Good. Yeah, so the real answer is in a 6-week block of programming, guys. Just change your life so that you're at the gym all the time. That's the real answer.
Well, had I known this, I wouldn't have volunteered to go out of town.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say I'm
See, you
sick.
should've put